I'm joined now by Mark Weisbrot. He's co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research here in Washington. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me first quote to you a comment made by Osvaldo Hurtado, the former president, when he was talking about this referendum, and President Rafael Correa. He said, President Correa has conjured up a perfect dictatorship by manipulating democratic institutions.
Well, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, if anybody's ever seen a dictatorship, they know it's not a country where, most of the media is run by the opposition, where you have, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly. There's nothing dictatorial about this
But
at
is
all.
this not the beginning of President Correa trying to take control of those institutions? I'll give you an example, for instance. He wants voters to remove a separation of powers clause in the current constitution, which would allow him to reorganize and appoint judges.
Well, not him personally. The part of this referendum is to overhaul the judicial system, but it's a panel that's set up. The legislature is involved, the executive is involved, there's another body as well that's involved. So, no, I don't see this at all any more than you could say in the United States that, when the Republicans block nominations, you could say that they're, judicial nominations, you could say they're abusing their power, but that's the power under the Constitution. So, all of this is just, it's a reaction by the right. They still control most of the wealth and the income and the media in the country, but they can't win at the ballot box. So when the president wins at the ballot box, that's considered a dictatorship. And you get the same comments from the, we call the Beltway bloviators here in Washington, saying the separation of powers is over, all kinds of exaggerated rhetoric. But there's really no basis for it at all.
What about his attempts to try and take control of the media, for instance? Look, we know that there's no love lost between the president and the media. At the moment, there's something like 5 journalists who are facing lawsuits from the president. He wants to appoint a government panel that would determine what kind of content television and newspapers can carry.
Well, on the lawsuits, that's something that libel laws differ in various countries. I personally don't agree with criminal libel laws, for example, but a lot of countries have them. But on the taking control of the media, no, there's no such thing. The media is overwhelmingly opposed to the government there. And, we used to have what was called the fairness doctrine in the United States before the Reagan era. And that said that news stations, those that had a broadcast license, had to give both sides of an issue. We still have regulation, as I've mentioned before on this channel, that far exceeds what you have in Ecuador and probably will exceed even after this law.
Okay, Mr. Weisbrot, we've run out of time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Residents along the banks of the Mississippi River in the United States are bracing for floodwater. People living in the city of Memphis have been told by authorities that the river's high water mark will come sooner than had been previously predicted. That follows more than 6 times the normal rainfall over the past 2 weeks. John Methrall reports.